Hi there and welcome to this lecture about Sweden during the 19th century. My name is Marcus Henriksson and I'm a history teacher here in Sweden. First of all, let's begin with a question: who was going to become Sweden's new king? After the departure of Gustav IV Adolf, Sweden was once again without a king. So who would they choose? The Swedish parliament decided that we should choose a person who was close to Napoleon so that we could share in his successes and maybe become a great Sweden once more. Finland had long been a part of Sweden, but since they had been conquered by the Russians, many people here in Sweden wanted our new king to retake Finland. Therefore, they chose Jean Baptise Bernadotte. He had been one of Napoleon's generals and also Minister of War. He came originally from a poor family in France, but since he was a very good fencer, he therefore rose in the military ranks. He was also Napoleon's brother-in-law. But you should know that he was no friend of Napoleon. In fact, he hated Napoleon. Napoleon had on several occasions threatened to kill Bernadotte. Bernadotte had always seen Napoleon as some kind of dictator, and he had no royal blood in his veins, which upset Bernadotte a lot. So instead of joining France, he joined Russia, and instead of conquering Finland, he conquered Norway. So Norway was in the year 1814 forced to have a personal union with Sweden. So he was now crowned king both of Sweden and Norway, and he took a new name, Charles Johan IV. But you should know that he hated Sweden, especially the food and its cold climate, so he only received visitors in bed. The newspapers started to criticize the king. They wanted freedom from royal oppression. And in turn, the king caused the newspapers to get banned. But then they started to create new newspapers with new names, such as Aftonbladet. We have Aftonbladet created in the year 1830, but when the king banned Aftonbladet, they created Aftonbladet 2. Then he banned Aftonbladet 2, they created Aftonbladet 3. Then Aftonbladet 4, Aftonbladet 5, Aftonbladet 6, Aftonbladet 7, Aftonbladet 8, and so on and so on and so on, until the king got so tired that he just chose to let them be. The population here in Sweden grew rapidly during the 19th century, and there are various factors contributing to this, such as peace, new agricultural implements, new plantations, new plants such as potatoes, better hygiene, vaccine, etc. Sweden therefore got overpopulated, and many people left the farms in order for them to become citizens in the cities. So basically they left the farms in order to get new jobs and work. This is also known to many as urbanization. In order to combat the unemployed and unemployment, the state here in Sweden created a bunch of new jobs, mostly by making new projects, building canals, building railroads, etc., which then could be used both for trains and steamboats. But how could Sweden afford this, you might ask? Well, we had a great forest industry during this time. We sold a bunch of wood to mostly Great Britain, but also Germany, France, etc. So industrialization during the 19th century took off, and the sawmill industry here in Sweden grew enormously during this time, especially in the northern part of Sweden and especially in a town called Sundsvall. Since Great Britain needed a lot of wood, because they needed both paper and charcoal and also wood. Some people here in Sweden, especially in Sundsvall, became enormously rich. They are also known as patrons. And when the town burnt down in the year 1888, they rebuilt the city and it would become really good looking. Like this. Like this. Like this. So the people here in Sweden have voted Sundsvall as the most beautiful town here in Sweden. We also had a great iron industry. We both sold iron and steel, so we could create a bunch of steel mills and also a bunch of new towns, such as Borlänge. But since more and more people started to work in the factories, the children were left unguarded. So basically they roamed around the streets, and people started to realize that it would be much better for them to get educated. Therefore, we can see the first public schools here in Sweden during the 19th century. We also got a new king, Oscar I, and he reigned here in Sweden between the years 1844 to 1859. And after him we have Charles XV between the year 1859 to 1872. And after him Oscar II between the year 1872 to 1907. During this time, many Swedes left for America and especially the United States. Poverty and famine caused a bunch of Swedes to travel to America. They also had freedom of religion, they had found and struck gold, oil, etc. So people migrated mostly between the years 1860 to 1930. Over 1 million Swedes left for the United States. This is also known by historians as the Exodus. The sawmill industry here in Sweden declined after the year 1908. Because during that time the English discovered hard coal, which was much cheaper to produce and easier to get hold of. So the patrons here in Sweden started to cut the wages of the workers and kept the profits for themselves. So many workers here in Sweden got angry, and therefore they started the first strike here in Sweden, which happened in the year 1879. The patrons, however, called in the military, who basically shot a bunch of people, and therefore they had to quit. However, the sawmill industry is still important here in Sweden today, and is mainly focused on producing paper pulp. But yeah, we also have a huge steel industry. During the end of the 19th century, a large part of the Swedish population was addicted to alcohol. Many here drank self-made brandy. So therefore, a bunch of Swedes in the parliament wanted to vote to have all liquor and all alcohol here banned. But they got downvoted, so to say. But yeah, the people here in Sweden had a huge drinking problem. So therefore they created the so-called temperance movement. The state also banned own production of brandy and took control of both manufacturing and the sales. And the state here in Sweden still to this day have a monopoly of selling liquor, which is called Systembolaget. So I hope during this small or short lecture that you have learned something new about Sweden. The sources I've used for this lecture are as follows: History Documentary, Hermans Historia, Jean Baptise Bernadotte; SO, Historia or History, by Elisabeth Ivansson, Robert Sandberg and Mattias Turdaj. Perspective on History by Lars Hans and Örjan Nyström. And History Documentary Swedish History by Martin Timell and Dick Harrison. But if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comment sections below. I hope you have a nice day. Bye.